Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to warmly thank the core committee members, organizers of this important webinar series for giving me the privilege of welcoming you all. For me, it's an honor and a pleasure. I would also like to thank them for having brought us together in this wonderful forum to discuss several current challenges. The festivities will provide a wonderful opportunity to reconnect with fellow alumni and entrepreneurs and explore the ways in which AABN continue to shape an exciting environment. As we move forward to ensure the future of AABN, we will continue to invest in the vast potential inherent in collaboration among individuals of varying backgrounds, perspectives, and expertise. This is the 124th weekly webinar series of AABN. While the road to recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic continues, businesses still face major challenges. Today, we have in our midst Mr. K. Lakshmi Narasimha Moorthy, founder and CEO, Niche Brains, to share his insights on Phoenix approach, how to rise above challenges in business and interactive business network organization. There are many excellent reasons to start a business, including working for yourself, earning more money, having a flexible work schedule, and expanding your skill set. However, like all worthwhile endeavors, starting and building a new business is challenging. If you are passionate about your business idea, don't let inevitable entrepreneurial pain points keep you from following through and making a business ownership dream a reality. As most small business owners will tell you, the risk and challenges are usually worth the rewards. New business owners wear many hats as they get their operations up and running, often handling sales, marketing, accounting, manufacturing, and more. However, they likely don't excel in all areas and may end up feeling overwhelmed. Growing business faces a range of challenges. As a business grows, different problems and opportunities demand different solutions. What worked a year ago might not be now the best approach. All too often, avoidable mistakes turn what could have been a great business into an also ran. Recognizing and overcoming the common pitfalls associated with growth is essential in your business is to continue to grow and thrive. Crucially, you need to ensure that the steps you take today don't themselves create additional problems for the future. Effective leadership will help you make the most of the opportunities, creating sustainability growth for the future. In this webinar today, Mr. K. Lakshmi Narasimha Moorthy, founder and CEO, Niche Brains, will highlight the particular risks and mistakes that most commonly affect growing businesses and outlines what you can do about them. Let me extend a very warm welcome to our eminent guest speaker and introduce him to you in this forum. Lakshmi is the co-founder and CEO at Niche Brains, India's first transformation expert platform, connecting MSME leaders to industry experts to help them thrive in future of business. Lakshmi is an entrepreneur, leader with career spanning 25 years in business consulting, technology services. Over the last 2 decades, he has worked with large, small customers, providing consulting on business applications and technology. He has worked across different industry verticals of manufacturing, high-tech electronics, and retail across Asian, Europe, companies like Rolls-Royce, Marines, Siemens, Medical Instruments, Zodiac Aerospace, etc. Lakshmi is an INSEAD alumnus and executive learning coach for digital strategy and innovation program at INSEAD. He is also a lecturer in growth and transformation, Phoenix Encounter method offered as INSEAD's flagship corporate program. He is certified global strategy tools coach and alumni of Singularity University, specializing in exponential technologies like AI, robotics, blockchain, and their impact on business. He had closely worked with more than 300 plus leaders of Schneider Electric, Henkel as executive coach in strategy and innovation programs through INSEAD. It's now up to us all to seize the opportunities this challenging time has created to build upon the lessons learned. I wish you all interesting and productive webinar and look forward to a collaboration in the weeks and months to come. Once again, a very warm welcome to you, Lakshmi. We are truly privileged to have you deliver the speech today at AABN. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Lakshmi.
Thank you, Mr. Gopi. Really, thanks for the warm introduction, and also thanks for the opportunity to alumni of Annamalai University. I'm also proud to say that one of my co-founder is an alumni of Annamalai University. He passed out of BTech IT in 1996, and he's not just a co-founder but also a friend for many years as well. So that's my association with Anamla University as well. Uh, with that thing, I just wanted to be sure, as usual, irrespective of the technology being advanced, we always ask this question: am I audible and is my screen visible? Just wanted to confirm if it is, if this is set. So I'm going to set a context. Basically, I just divided into this presentation into two. One is setting up the context and how Phoenix Way works, and possibly the last 10 minutes, I will also talk about what.
மெசேஜ் பார்த்துருக்கேன்.
So what we do as a platform also. So I try to, and also during the course of the course of the presentation, I would also have some questions being asked. So feel free to take time to post your answers on the chat so I can know it can know it can be more interactive as well. And yeah, with that note, no, I would like to start off with a simple question. So we keep hearing these words, right? No, especially in the last 3 years, though in the past it was sparingly used, but then in the last few years, disruption, innovation, and transformation. So can you take a moment to share your thoughts? What comes to your mind when you hear these words? Maybe 20, 30 seconds. So what kind of, it could be product, it could be services, it could be a mindset, there can be anything. I mean, whatever comes to your mind, if you could take few minutes, few seconds to type your and share your thoughts, it would be great. Coronavirus, that's interesting for sure. Yeah. New ways of doing things effectively. That's fantastic, Arun. And technology, yeah. Smartphones, AI, ML. Future, that's true. So while we get the answers, let's just, the whole idea is that this means different things to different ones, and then there are so many moving parts exist. Now let me start with the case of what happened with one of the business. It started in 2011, and this is a company, and let me tell the story of how an old way of doing things makes these companies makes the old companies these new companies success. So it was started in 2011. It was funded very minimal amount in 2012, went for typically in a startup parlance we have series A and series B, and globally expanded, and in 2016 it got acquired from by a large company because they felt threatened by this smaller one, and with a very huge valuation as well. So this was in a matter of period of 5 years. So I'm sure many of you might be knowing about this company. This company is a Dollar Shave Club. And so as we all know, Gillette has been the monopoly when it comes to selling of blades and cartridges. Even people talk about Gillette as a strategy in many business school as well. But whereas when Mark Levin and Michael Dubin was thinking about this as a problem, they realized that why should someone have to pay huge amount of money for replacing their cartridges? So that was the question that let them come out with a Dollar Shave Club. And we all would have heard about software as a service, but then they talked about and they positioned as shaving as a service, where one can replace buying a costly cartridges on a month-on-month or a frequent basis, and then change into a subscription basis. And they went on to become an unicorn by 2016, and realizing the potential that though Unilever did not have any business to support the Dollar Shave Club, they acquired and then made it run as a standalone company within the Unilever fold. It was but then the idea when it was started with a simple video. So this is basically the power of leveraging technology and thinking differently can do for any business. So my big idea today, again, I'm drawing my inspiration with working with Phoenix Encounter method. I was being taught by the professors who are also the authors of the book, and also engaged with them on various programs. So this was the big idea as such. So this is a big picture. So disruption can affect any ways to any business. There are different kinds of things comes and then hit it anywhere. So how do one prepare for something they don't know? This is the whole question. There is always something you cannot prepare for. Thing. So the way we are conditioned to run a business over a period of time creates our own blockers as well. So what used to be more strength as no longer strength. When such kind of a disruption comes, is there a way to overcome such kind of a blockers, and how it can be, it can be these kind of unprecedented challenges that comes to your way can be handled. So this Phoenix way of thinking is basically basically in terms of starting imagining these destruction before it happens to you. So there is no method as such. There is I would say that there is no framework or a kind of a 4x4 matrix as such, but it's a kind of a method, an approach one has to do, which includes attitude, switching your attitude, and also scanning your business environment, thinking about radical ideation, and also go with the wargaming and analysis, and finally creating a blueprint preparation. This is what is going to be the approach that we will be discussing as we go forward. During this process, one might have a completely a different opposite viewpoints and then debate about it, and having such kind of a mindset is what is the big picture idea about what Phoenix approach will be. So why this Phoenix way of doing it, actually speaking? Now, in the last 15 years, 52% of the Fortune 500 companies have disappeared. Of course, in the average age of the companies in 1958 is about 75 years, but whereas when it comes to 2019, it's only 15 years. Why this is? And this also comes with the question that, like a product has a shelf life, which means the length of the time one can expect a product to look and act has expected to stay safe for usage. Is there a shelf life for business? Is there a shelf life for strategy? We would have known thriving businesses, be it Nokia. There are various examples, Kodak. There are various examples at different points of time become obsolete, and they either got closed or bankrupt, or they got acquired. And we have seen many companies who are not just able to sustain, but survive and thrive through decades of successfully. There are many examples on the other side, companies like Amazon or Microsoft, to name a few. So the whole idea is that why this? So what is the context, and how these companies which are successful see things differently, and how these companies which are not successful miss the bus? So it's all about seeing and recognizing the crisis, right? So we come across various crises at different point of time. While the recent past crisis, everybody talks about COVID as a crisis, whereas we come across the natural crisis, the financial crisis. There are so many global crises, and crises are not new to us. But with COVID, everything came together, be it health or a humanitarian or a financial, everything has come together. And that's where, the crisis is of huge proportion altogether. Now, along with these crises, there also a firestorm of disruption driven by digitization and technology. And so this technology and digitization changes the business model and the way the business is operating. And possibly are these something overnight? They came. It's not the case. They have been disruptive for over many years, and they are also kind of exist in different forms. And also the technologies like cloud or mobile or artificial intelligence are not new for any business. And in the words of Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, it's just the COVID. If not for this COVID, no, this disruption might have taken a couple of more years. It's just that COVID as a kind of a crisis have accelerated much faster these kind of disruption to manifest in different ways. And just wanted to have this disruption and also look at these kind of just as a picture to spend some time. So with the 8 billion populations over across the world, we have more than 75 70% of the population already using phones, mobiles. And also again same, more than 65% of the people are using internet, and social media is used by 50% of the population minimum. And we have more devices than world population exists today. So that's what is the changes that we do. So all these crises gives two things. One is danger, which is basically survival is the question, and other one is opportunity. Now, what makes this as danger versus opportunity is that our own mindset, because it all boils down to the fact that when, as people, when we look at these crises, when we are having our own blockers and we have our own typical old way of doing things, we try to do more of the same things and expect something magic to happen. And this is what I call this as a kind of a legacy trap. Now imagine I'm just trying to say the, here uh, a small story. Like I'm sure we all in our childhood would have heard about the story of Rip Van Winkle. He gets, he goes into a sleep, and then after he wakes up for 20 years or so and sees that a lot of things have changed. So similarly, just imagine a CEO from our own time. Maybe he was very successful in 80s. Um, he's basically, he goes into a sleep and he wakes up in 2020. And he was a very, very, very celebrated CEO, and he was very successful in getting year-on-year, business results and things like that. But in now, when he wakes up, he doesn't understand this new landscape. He's kind of lost and basically thinking how to operate it. Now, naturally, what happens? All these technologies and both it gives you some sort of ideas, as well as also he gets also panic. He sees that it is danger. We need to really do something about it. So he issues a wide memorandum across the company, basically ordering that all the technology must be stopped, and they have to use basically fax machines for sending information. People have to travel. No smartphones are allowed. People have to travel to deliver the work and order and stuff like that. And also you need to print the proposal and then send it to it, get the order signed, and so on and so forth. Now, in the age of cloud, in the age of fast transportation, when he is using old way of doing things, how far he can go in the business, how far can he be successful? And the obvious question is, he may not be, or he cannot be, rather I would say that. Same thing, how many people will be willing to work with him on a long-term basis when he's working with these kind of old way of doing things? So businesses today, majority, while we appreciate and understand technology, business is saddled with these legacy systems, processes, and with ingrained biases for all these things are making it difficult for many organizations, so that they become obsolete and fail to catch up the game, and then fail to grow as well. So then, how do we break from this legacy trap and then think about what can be the ideal way of doing things in this changed world? So this is this is where this is where the idea of agility comes into picture. I think we all know about the concept of agility, and many also think about building slack or building a buffer is as a kind of gives us a hedge in terms of doing things better. That's what is majority of us also think about agility. But then I just wanted to take a little bit moment to see that in these kind of disruptive times, and when you cannot really forecast what kind of crisis can come next, how do you help your business to have get ready for it? One of the ways to start with is to think about having an agility mindset. So this particular agility is all about having the flexibility to adapt to demand and supply shocks. I'm sure COVID was a great example where overnight a lot of things have changed, where demand shrunk and then there was no way to get a supply as well. So how can one build such kind of flexibility in their business so that they can better adapt to these kind of shocks? The second one is about building speed of response, because agility is also about thinking about business from the fact that how can one respond to a changing needs of their clients or changing need of the business environment to respond faster and speed. And third one is about having the ability to see things, how things will shape based on the trends that is going on in the business, be it from the macroeconomic factors, be it policy regulations, and also technology drivers as well. All this boils down to having a consistent growth and profitability in business. And that's what is, I would say, a kind of an ideal way of looking at business, which can weather any kind of disruptions. Now, having said that, this is all like, kind of, I would say that very at a high level. I know that we are also from, we have people here from different diverse backgrounds and diverse industry. So then I thought that what can I give something valuable that you can take away? And this is where I believe that we can go into a nice way of seeing that how this big picture view translate into a panoramic view of business and technology, where we can look at from a tactical point of view. So any disruptions or any change in the technology, where it basically impacts is that the way the business is done. Now this business is done the way, and we basically as an organization, irrespective of size, we all have multiple functions. Now these technology or economic factors or everything affects different business processes as such, like be it product and development, engineering, sourcing, supply chain, manufacturing, operation. So every any crisis or any disruptions has impact on that, and how one can leverage these disruptions with the ability of technologies, which is like various technologies that basically can be used as resources or enablers to build flexibility, speed, and intelligence so that one can grow profitably. So a combination, a success comes when one is able to incorporate a technology together with business process. That's where they are able to really build their business agility as we go forward. So I'm going to spend time taking on how different organizations or different use cases, some different ways how different organizations are using these technologies when this kind of crisis hits. So the first example is typically, I'm sure that this you would have come across. There are like so mobile. There were robots with mobile sanitizing robots, which was very much used in airports and other government organizations, just to make sure that there is a contactless way to help people to become more safe. Second is mobile medical dispensing, without again the same ways that medicines are getting dispersed through some of the robots as well. And the third one is to communicate the need for social distancing. There was kind of a robot dogs which was available in some of the places to just to remind the people that hey, it's COVID time, it's pandemic time, you maintain social distancing. It was identified through basically identifying the distance between the people, and there is a more amount of crowd. These robot dogs used to go and then remind them that they need to maintain the social distance. And now some of them are basically can be, some of these technology or some of these products can be temporary in nature. Some of them can also be a long-term in nature. But once you know one use case, the ability for us as to think about how one can think differently to use it for different your own businesses is where the your ability to incorporate this technology comes into picture. The second one is about AR and VR, where there are a lot of applications have come in the last few years when it comes to AR and VR. Like it's about be it consumer, where one doesn't have to visit the facility, typically having a property inspections or furnishing to see visualize about how home will be before even one can construct about it. Or be it healthcare or any industries where there is a training and support is required. Or when it comes to business, naturally there is a remote maintenance and operations and new productions and process training. All these places where AR and VR plays a huge role. Going on to the specific example, when I really look at it, Hippo is a company which is basically a home insurance service provider. Now, the home insurance is one of the long duration, long lead time taken to provide for anybody. Now, what Hippo did is that they leverage the publicly available data and combine that with the geosatellite information, which basically says about what is the area and what kind of geography and what kind of challenges that can happen. And with AI algorithms, they are able to provide insurance quote within a matter of hours. So with that, the time taken for them to reach and conclude and help the client make a decisions become faster. This is one of the use case in AI in home insurance. So this is another example. See, this is a company called Oli, which is based out of Italy. This is a mobility solutions, mainly was started off with intending for campus based transportation, while they had a vision for having even a public transportation. This is a 3D printed autonomous electric vehicle, having three different technologies combined together to have one particular one. So 3D printed to have time to produce and also eliminate the waste to a huge extent, and autonomous naturally to not to have really have dependent on manual vehicle, and electric sustainability and also more efficient. So it basically disrupted multiple industries leveraging these technologies as well. So when these kind of technologies combine together and a new product or service or a solution comes in, it not just disrupt that specific industry alone, but it also disrupt the other industries as a side effect as well. And I'm sure that the other one which could be interesting is because this I came across when I was doing my program in Singularity University. This typically that a single malt whiskey takes more it ages, it takes more taste. That's I'm sure that most of the whiskey connoisseurs can appreciate that. So but however, this whiskey is completely made of synthetic compound, and the one that my friends were tasting, it was equivalent to 18 years old, but it was just the age of about 3 months. So one of my friends who was the CEO of a leading brewery based out of Canada was in awe while he was thinking about how he can build next level of growth and sales, whereas his product itself was getting disrupted. So now he is putting in place a strategy to create a better response to this kind of disruption happening as well. Now, all these are good. Now, what about the grassroots level, or rather, what's happening in India as well? Take an example of Tringo. Tringo is is a subsidiary of Mahindra, and in India, I'm sure that not everyone, every farmer owns a tractor. And I'm sure that in my village or many of the people who come from village, if you own a tractor, you are treated like a millionaire, right? I mean, that's what used to be the case. So while, however, majority of the people having a small bit of lands have to depend on these tractor owners for waiting to have these farm being given so that they can either use for various life stages of growth or any agri requirement as well. Mahindra, realizing this need, came up leveraging mobile technology. They created a mobile app and provided tractor and driver as a service. So they leveraged their distributor network previously who used to sell these products or tractors as products. Now they basically have become a part of this app. Now farmers can look at this Stringo and then look at the tractor availability, so they can book themselves a tractor in case if they are having kind of a capability to build ride the tractor, or they can also get a driver also together with that. So depending on various combinations and other thing, they're able to instead of owning, get an access to it. So this is the power of technology, where we are changing from a kind of a business model of owning things to changing to access or utility, only use it as and required. So this happens across diverse kind of industries, and what we call as an on-demand economy, where it's not just about a food today, it is also going into a business, it is also going into products, and the use cases are huge. So with these kind of things that is happening, just taking a pause at the moment, if you could also just as a second question, I would say that take a moment to say that what kind of a changes do you recognize in your business, be it technology front or a business model front? I mean, maybe again, another 30 seconds, if you could take a moment to respond using the chat box. So what kind of changes do you see in your business in the last few years? Great, not enough skills power sharing and collaboration has increased. I'm going to cover on the skilled manpower part as we go forward. Thanks for that prompt, Mr. Usman. Online, going online. Great. While we get the responses, just thinking about it, there are a lot of things changes. So there is also a set of people though we recognize the need for these kind of changes important, there is also a set of organizations, be it a smaller or large, why this must be a priority for my business. I mean, my businesses, because there are some businesses which gets impacted, some businesses not. But then at some point of time, technology and these things will have an impact. But however, these question becomes, more important for us to take and then answer. Why this is a priority now to be looked at is that only the COVID, though it's accelerated, once it becomes, will things be normal? At some point of time, we go back to pre-COVID situation or it's that. So with also keeping that in mind, when we researched, these are the 6 kind of factors, either standalone or in combination, will need for you to think about what's happening in your environment, how technology is different, disrupting your business directly or indirectly as well. So some of them are, if you can see that in the last few years, if you have observed, there is a kind of a stagnation in revenue or a declining profit. This is one of the candidates. I'm sure that there are industries which are very, which are already there, like traditional print medias and kind of news agencies. All these are getting disrupted. Not just that, even the MSMEs, fabrications. These are some of the examples where they see consistent decline in their profits and revenue. A structural industry changes, like what we discussed about just now back. Tringo changes the way farm equipments are basically sourced. So this technology changes the way things are done. The rapid technology changes. Typically, the last few months, the one word that we keep hearing, though I have not covered about it, taking us a few minutes to spend, ChatGPT basically has changed the way people consume or get the information. And though it's still early in adoption on the business on some of the major organization, but we already can see that we stopped slowly using the Google, and we start off thinking about, I don't want many choices and pages of information where I need to, I want to, really have some information, though it starts with asking a question, but the use cases are many, from support to creating presentation to even creating a new application when you know what problem you're solving. That's what is the power of the technology that is present today. And also there are some traditionally underperforming industries which is ripe for disruption, which is getting really which is really getting pressure from all their investors, or even they're having declining revenues and stuff like that. And also when you bring in a strategically preemptive leader, and that's what, whenever you see a new leader who's been come on board for a large or a small organization, he comes with no previous baggage, previous blockers. His objective is to see that how things from a new perspective. And that's what the strength that a strategic preventive leader brings in, which can totally question the status quo and change the way things are done. And of course, there is a sudden crisis. COVID is not just the crisis. We had many crises. We started off with post-COVID. There is a kind of a mass resignations was there, and then there is a recession, and then we also have a great retrenchment. Now, are they going to stop? They're not going to. It can manifest in different forms and different ways as well. So when these kind of impact that you see in business, either in as a single element or in a combination, it's time for you to think about scanning and think about what's happening on your industry, who are the new players, and see about what you can do about it. So just to going on this next step, what I would say is that Phoenix Encounter has about 3 steps. So the first step is what we were talking about, till about thinking about how different trends are happening and what to do to have a kind of a different ideas. This is what we call it as a groundwork. When things are changing your business, so it's more like we always tend to have an inside out approach as to, we start with what's happening in our business, why we are not doing it, then we go outside. But rather I wanted to bring in an outside in perspective, and that's where I came with what kind of things changes happening, and then how one need to look at inside and how they are impacted. The next step on the Phoenix Encounter method is that having a battlefield, which what we say is that we call this as more like an extreme attack and horizontal defense. So imagine like what can be the most radical attack that your business can have. It can be a small or a large business. So I'll just take that as a part. And the third one is creating a blueprint. So I'm going to cover these 2 steps together in the next couple of slides. So it's just like an extreme attack is something like this. If you have an unconstrained resources, there is nothing that you can lose, and you have all the kind of access to technology. How will you reimagine your business today? If you know if you know you have already a strategy, which is strategy is or you have you're doing your business in a way that has been done for so many years now, and possibly COVID also to a certain extent helped you adapt to that thing. So if you have access to all the resources, innovations in the world without any constraint, how will you change your thinking? That's basically that's what we call this. And also imagine that if someone, as an organization, a new company comes in, an upstart like a Dollar Shave Club, who without any baggage they come and then question the traditional business model. Same way, if someone who's going to come as a new company which has unconstrained resources, access to technology, think differently, to come and then are going to question or going to compete with you directly, how would you be uh, responding to that? So that is what is the first step. We call it as extreme attack, where you are imagining something, your business is already disrupted by someone, an unknown a kind of new company, and your traditional business is gone, and you need to really rethink about it. And that's what we call this as like, where every what strength that one company used to have need to rethink and evolve as we go forward. A couple of large, I mean, some of the examples, there are many examples we can put. Amazon Web Services was one of the classic example of how it started, where Jeff Bezos was asked by to one of his colleague to rethink about starting a new business with a high profitability, which has no relationship with the current one. And that's where AWS has started. Same as the case when Microsoft reinvented themselves from a kind of on-premise selling licenses and selling products to changing themselves into a subscription-based more cloud offerings and other things under the leadership of Satya Nadella as well. Now, is this, though we have taken example of all these large companies, this applies irrespective of the large companies or small sizes, doesn't matter. If there are many examples which we can quote for small example, but namesake I'm not really we can not, because of the brand not existing, we can keep it. But what is important is that when you see that you have been attacked by someone who's a new upstart, the survival instinct sticks in, and using that and imagining that enemy and then creating a war game will help you to think about which otherwise would not have possible for you to think and strategies as well. That's what is the what we call it as an extreme attack. And once you know that these are the possible ways a new company can grab your business, can attack your business, then the next step is how you can build your defense strategy. While you can leverage new ideas, but you also need to protect your existing business. So this is what we call it as an encounter battlefield. And normally the way it works is that the executives or the people who will be asked to come out with initially in the groundwork, what will be your growth strategy for the next 2 years or 5 years, and they come out with a specific approach. But when they go for this kind of an encounter battlefield of having this to face with a new company and also building the horizontal defense, the entire strategy changes and they come up with new approaches and new thinking process as well. And the common patterns that comes in out of this exercise and changes are basically is that number one, it's always starts with the questioning the status quo. The second one is about leveraging the technologies to to various facets of their business. Third is about getting new business model, thinking about new business model, and then disrupting business and industry sector. It basically spans across. Previously, they used to be focused on one specific industry, and then it changed to across industry sectors. And also the ideas about expanding to new markets as well. And also this from the way it is like before and after, when we really see that as just to take from way things are there, as we see how it will go when we all start to think about it, and when these when the leaders are starting to think about this Phoenix way of approach, is that from specific industry focus to we think about diffusing of industry boundaries. So we focus on multiple. We no longer talk about kind of an automobile industry. Rather, we call about mobility solutions which span across the likes of from producing car to owning and or sharing or ride sharing apps and so on and so forth. These are all comes under kind of a across different segments gets diffused into one industry. and one-time selling of transaction to a lifelong partnership and co-creation of solutions as well. So the business model changes. And it also gives the opportunities to think about moving from one revenue stream to multiple revenue streams, and from building product to building about platform or ecosystem. That's the thing. And this requires a kind of different kinds of thinking from a leadership point of view. And what we call this is that a kind of a leadership altitudes. Now, a leadership, previously there used to be a different set of people used to think about strategy and think about tactical and think about various aspects, but rather a successful Phoenix way of thinking helps one to think from a 50,000 strategic view, where one can dream about what can be possible on how things can be shaped, leveraging technology and new ideas can come, and then move down to have a kind of a 50-feet day-to-day view where they can leverage technology, make an execution plan, get it executed, and make that real, make that vision a reality. And finally, it also about more about self-awareness, right? I mean, one cannot be can no longer be saying that I know it all kind of a thing. I know, or I can build everything. One need to also see about how one can build capabilities within the organizations and also leverage the ecosystem that is available for better collaborations as well. Now, where the challenge comes, where a lot of organizations misses out, is that maybe few people can be stuck at this kind of a 50,000 feet, or more for this is typically for kind of a startups or kind of way where they have a large vision, but when it comes to execution, it doesn't get translated. That's where more than 97% of the startups doesn't really get successful. Whereas when it comes to 50 feet day-to-day view, people can be more focused on the short-term results, but miss the big picture. And finally, you might be having both good, one might be having good vision and good execution. But if someone is not really aware of themselves, what is their strength and weaknesses, and see how they can leverage and build a better team, but more self-absorbed, then naturally they will not be in a position to successful. This is what we call it as more like an altitude sickness. So one need to be really not have this kind of an altitude sickness, that have a kind of a strength, use that, build the strength of having a different view of strategic, operational, and personal levels at the level of leadership, so that you will be able to seamlessly move across different heights and build your strategy and execute them as well. So that's another important one when it comes to the execution point of view. And what happens is that we talked about the trends, we talked about how to create different ideas and different ways through this kind of extreme attack, as well as the horizontal defense, so that we understand what are the different ways leveraging of technologies as well as business model, and also have a kind of a mental model to see at 3 different levels. The next step is creating an execution plan or creating a blueprint. So with that, how do one can do it basically? Because once one know that what is their current capabilities that exist, and what is the what they need to be done, so they can create a simple way to look at prioritizing of their initiative. What is the expected business impact a particular initiative or an idea which came out of the Phoenix encounter came in, and current execution capabilities as well. With that, if one is able to map, then naturally they will be able to prioritize and then create a blueprint which can span across 3 different timeline. So while we are executing and fortifying the core, which is on the short term, one also need to have a medium and long term, which I call more like growth and explore. So while you are protecting your core business, you also need to be mindful about new skills and new capabilities to be built, and also bring in the fact that what are all the different ways one can grow in the business. So when you go to the second year, possibly some of these growth areas can become your core, and the old core gets basically stopped. That's how one need to be keep on thinking about it and build the execution plan. And also it has to go through a different levels of iteration, because in this kind of a changing world, there is a new crisis comes, one need to rethink and then regroup and rethink. And that's where this kind of different levels of thinking and making an execution plan, considering this kind of an approach helps in this disrupted world. So I would take a pause before I talk about what we as niche brains do. I'll take as a last few minutes to do it. I would like to open it for any questions at this stage, so that we can take up questions, and then before I go on to talk about what my organization is doing. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second, so that if we can have some questions or discussions that I would say that we have that can be answered before I go to the next section, which basically how we are rethinking the way the consulting as an business is being done.
So one of the challenges is that we don't get information properly to be able to take proper decisions.
So see, it's a very interesting question. The challenges lies in the factors about our ability. This can be at two levels, actually speaking. One could be we are more focused on day-to-day executions. In our experience, that is one of the bigger challenge, that things are working fine. Why to break something is working? While your industry per se may not have been impacted directly or immediately, but proactive thinking will not happen, because you're getting stuck in the day-to-day execution of things. So you're ignoring something which is happening outside, be it technology or any other changes that is happening. So that is one of the things. So having a proactive scanning of your environment time to time, having these discussions at least once in a quarter, will help in terms of saying that, hey, how the industry value chain is changing, who are the new players, what kind of a technology impacts are happening. So this kind of few questions to discuss and see how is it going to impact immediately, or is there to be part of your blueprint for the future in timeline, can help in terms of addressing these challenges. That's my view on this.
I have one question. This is Arun here. How do you find out the return on investment for this technology? The problem being that you are talking about disruption. You are talking about implementing the new technology, which will be helpful for the business strategy. But at the end of the day, that if you cannot identify the return on investment, it may not be much useful to the MSME.
Great question, Arun. So I will address this question. In fact, majority of the technology initiative fail for the simple reason is that it has not approached with the thinking process as to why it is done. So I would start off with the fact that before we embark on these kind of a technology investment, what is the problem that one is solving? So this problem can be on two-folded, right? One can be that it is to provide a speed, which is saving of the time, or provide cost saving, which is saving of the labor or saving of other machines, or both, and also giving visibility. There are various things, right? Now, when we are deciding on these kind of a technology initiative, that's where I also started. Let me also try to see if I can bring in the screen again and just focus on that particular slide, because that will be interesting to use that as well. Just give me a second. So I hope you are able to see my screen, right? So see, a kind of an ROI can be realized, or ROIs can be assessed when you look at it from, there is a problem in your business. Now this business problem, there is a strategic challenges that you face, and that translate into a specific departmental challenges as well. Now, these departmental challenges can also be solved, how these technologies are going to solve, and what exactly the problem is it, and how you can link that to, because we are only looking at cost saving or thing, how we are going to link, and what kind of specific, I would say, a balance sheet or a P&L element that it's going to impact. Once we are able to get that information proactively and see that how this can be realized, or is it only a paper based one? Is it just that we calculated and it works, or are there some things? So this is how one can think about proactively determining what problem to be solved, how it is going to be solved, and what are the resources and business processes will be leveraged, and then what is the now and then post one. When we are able to create this kind of an approach, the ability for us to have a better ROI increased. Again, there are also challenges about when rubber meets the road. That's where your selection of the right experts who can do it, be it internally or externally, and how the support from the management as well as understanding the need for going through these, all these things from the execution part. But one can prepare for getting a better ROI by forecasting these different challenges or different ways to think about from a business process point of view, but not just from the technology point of view. That's my view on this part, Arun.
This is Vishwanath. Singularity Universities, are you part of the Ray Kurzweil's University in Santa Clara?
That's right.
Okay, I didn't know that there was it is a branch in Hyderabad?
No. This is, see, Hyderabad. Hyderabad as a chapter for Singularity. So I'm a global Singularity ambassador for Singularity University.
Okay, I just, because Abundance was a book that really shook my founding. So right. when you were the speaker, this was curiosity. The real problem for MSME today, there are two problems that MSME face. One is lack of manpower. Skilled manpower is practically non-existing. Because the MNCs have come, the brains have all gone to IT, and the skilled labor has all gone to many Korean and Singapore-based people, and now we have to import literally from UP and Bihar and house them and all that. All the costs is adding up. It's a major. I mean, we never expected 5 years or back. If you had asked, what will be your biggest challenge? I wouldn't have said labor is my bigger challenge, but today that seems to be the second. Is at least in here, nobody wants to. I mean, at every level, people are happy hanging up their boots, including my own roommates, classmates. Everybody is happy doing nothing. Actually, it's surprising. There's no culture to work, and already India is lowest in women in workforce in the world. We have the lowest participation of women in workforce. None of my friends' wives, they just don't think it's below their dignity to go out and work. Working is an anathema to most people. So we don't have enough people to work. The very strange situation where we have a lot of people, but not enough people to work at every level. I'm not talking of labor. I'm talking of executives. It looks like a curse, because most people who retire next 30 years, they are going to do nothing, and it's a paradigm, it's a paradox rather. So that is one. The second is land. One of the problems is want to go for expansion, the price of land, because everybody is looking at like real estate price, and the government itself is doing real estate. If you go to a SIPCOT complex, an acre is like 5 crores. If it's a 5,000 crore project of a car company, and they're investing 100 acres, is 500 crores, 10% of their project cost. But for a MSME, if their project itself is 1 crore and you're investing 5 crores in land, it doesn't make sense. You're not doing real estate business. You're actually in production. And many of my friends, when I ask them, have you factored land cost in your product pricing? They say, no way. They're laughing. They say, if we factor the land cost in our product pricing, even one machine I cannot sell, or one product I cannot sell. Just want your, how do you deal with this challenge?
Right. So it's a nice segue to what we are doing. Of course, we don't solve this problem directly, but rather we do it differently. So I don't have a solution per se for the land part of it, but rather how, because it's also the same business practices that we continue to do. That can be possibly one of the reasons why we are basically having the same kind of investment requirements when it comes to land or manpower as well. I mean, suppose I'm sure some of you would have had an opportunity to visit Tesla factory in SFO, if at all you have been there. If you see this, they produce like a large number of cars when it comes to the production per day. But then their facility is much smaller when compared to any of the other automobile industries as well. So a right blend of technology and expertise can change the way we think. And it's also, I just thought I will take a moment before taking a question to see that, to answer Mr. Viswanath's question as to what we do from the expertise point of view and how we wanted to make an impact to a MSMEs per se. So I'll just take a few minutes to explain this, and then possibly we can go back. So that I thought it can be a nice segue for me to get into this thing. So in our experience, there are twin challenges faced by the MSMEs as such. One is access to finance, which is what everybody talks about, like building working capital, building loans for PPEs and everything as well. But there is also another challenges that is faced, which is, as Mr. Smith, access to expertise. It's not just the labor alone, but I'm talking about thinking about how one can leverage technology, how one can re-strategize themselves, because most of the MSMEs are stuck with this 50 feet day-to-day execution, and they take a loan and then they reservice this back. And that's where the vicious circle keep on growing. Not many people break that kind of a vicious circle to go to the next level, a micro becoming a small, or a small becoming a medium, and medium becoming a large company. So what problem we solve basically is that our challenge that we address is that 60% of MSMEs lacks expertise to put together a plan and execute. Now, you cannot really go to a consulting firm, be it larger, bigger, because complex process taken to understand and then get together what to problem to solve, or even sometimes a software centric initiatives. And all this results basically into more than 70% of the initiatives fails, which basically puts a lot of time for them to take a decision. So again, MSMEs has a very limited resources as well. So what we put together as a platform basically is that we come up with a digital transformation advisory, because we think that problem to be solved is the first step for MSMEs to understand where they are in their business, what kind of a problem that they need to solve, and then provide them access to global experts. Now, these experts are from India or anywhere. And again, we have an experts, as you know, some of them are like kind of a retired veterans of an industry or other people. Some of them are alums of some of the colleges, some of the people who have turned around the business and they wanted to be flexible on their own. They are on our platform, and they know that when you give an input, what kind of an output one can get. So we kind of help them with the tools to create a pre-configured services, which they can be offered to the MSMEs with a short burst of business outcome focused engagements. And we start with this as a transformation, more like categorize them into a more four dimensional one, which is strategy and leadership, operations, technology adoptions, and building capabilities internally. And so we help MSMEs to think about their transformation journey in these kind of 4 dimensions. And when they come to our platform MSME, our platform basically, they go through this kind of what we call it as a DTAS, which is digital transformation assessment score, which help them understand the problem that they face on which dimensions and where they are, and then configure their digital transformation journey based on the stage of their transformation, and categorize them into a legacy, siloed, strategic, or future ready. And based on that, we also recommend what kind of solutions or kind of a business engagement one can go for it as such. So on with this, once you know the problem and also then a solution, the next step is that how can they be solved? We connect with them with an expert industry advisors who can come on board with them, work on a short burst of engagements, and get the business outcome delivered. And some of our experts, as I said, they're retired industry veterans or executives or females who want to work from home and then provide expertise over remotely. These are various ones. And we help them manage the entire workflow across the engagement on the platform, the entire workflow, including audio, video calling, and including the tracking of the deliverables and so on and so forth. And that's what we do. And what we believe is that MSMEs has a greater potential to break these day-to-day challenges and grow to the next level. And one of the bigger challenges for them to help them understand the problem and get them connected with the right experts can help them to a greater extent to break this kind of challenges. And this is what we do, and taking the cues, applying what I have learned and then what I have been practicing in our organization. So that's something to elaborate answer, and which also covers what we do to, and also answering Mr. Viswanathan's question as well. So if the right blend of technology can be leveraged, a challenge of experts as well as other investment related challenges can be addressed, is what I think only time can tell as we go forward. So that's the long answer for two questions that you had, Mr. Vishwanath.
Arun, you have a question, Arun?
No, sir. No, I'm fine.
Rajendra? Yeah, participants, you may unmute. Please unmute and ask your question, sir. Please.
It's a very peculiar situation I am going through. We manufacture underground storage tanks, septic tanks. It's doing very well because we are a monopoly. Actually, we are not able to meet the demand. So it's a good thing to be in business. I mean, in my business, we've grown fairly well, about 45% year-on-year growth last 6 years. So that's good. And as long as people drink water or use the toilet, we are in business. So that way also it is good. So the only problem is to develop newer products, because as such, as I told you, there is already a shortage of labor and space and things like that. So we are trying to spin off a new venture to only as a product development, which we may license to other, or we may manufacture ourselves. That is our idea. We are into composites, so we are thinking of drones and like growth areas like drones and defense and all that. But surprisingly, though we are doing extremely well, and the banks do not think they'll finance ideas. They I mean, in spite of good track record, they say, why don't you do it in your existing setup? Existing setup, we have some constraints in terms of the partnership ideology and things like that. So they ask them, can I spin off a new venture only where we make prototypes and test the market and things like that? I mean, all financial entities, they say you need track record. I have a good track record,
but in a different company.
In a different company. So it's a kind of catch-22 situation. How does one go about it?
Yeah, so it's just like this. See, there are two things. One, when your business is doing good, you need to be watchful, because if you're going really good, which means that it's not so long that there can be someone else who could be. I mean, unless it is not easily duplicable business. I'm sure it's once understand, one can come in. So you need to really see how you can protect.
On the contrary, I welcome people to copy because the market is so huge.
Right, that's true.
So if they can, they're most welcome to copy also. No problem.
Great. So on the second part of it, I would look at it this way. See, traditionally, again, as we really look at it from the point of view, the traditional way the banks are work, give money when you don't need it. Like there is an adage is there. And because of the fact is that they look at the risk factors before getting you the money. Now, the way to look at it is that if you want to have a funding for your idea without being kind of going to the debt or a bank approach, there are also other ways of looking at it. One is to see if your idea, I mean, unless you are very specific about bank or debt kind of a way. No, there is other things. There are fintechs. There are other kind of financial institutions who fund for ideas. This is one way to look at it as well. The second way is also to see if you want to have this as an individual standalone organization, and go for an equity funding. A classic example is my own company, Niche Brain. See, we have another company, Niche Bees, which is basically an enterprise consulting space. And we incubated Niche Brains when we started, when we thought about the way the consulting happens, and then you have more number of people, then you can increase the growth. And we couldn't really, have being an MSM, being a smaller organization, we couldn't really break that one. And when it came to us, and then when it came, I think the way we looked at it is also we disrupted ourselves as such when we really looked at it. While we kept that core of Niche Bees where we focused on traditional consulting, we focused this, and nobody was ready to finance us for the idea of a consulting organization, and which is basically, though we had a track record and I think because our problem was different. And then we set up this separately as an independent platform development organization. We raised funds also. So I would say that the source that you look at it for this idea development and then franchisee should be not banks, because they look at track record and thing. Rather, you need to really look about investors, maybe angel investors. You have a very good network of business alumni who, I mean, again, that's where one can start also. You have your business network. You can always find one or two angel investors to get that traction. And of course, which means when you are getting people on board, naturally you need to share your wealth as well as decision making as well. So that's my take on this, Mr. Ishmael.
Thanks.
Anyone else has a question?
Yeah, Mr. Gopi, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Session. Thanks to, it is a great session. My question is related to, whenever we are doing this, as a model, right, doing this disruption or innovation and things like that, should we also take into consideration the long-term consequences or the, the human impact and things like that? For example, we read recently that the top AI advisor for Google, he left Google because he wanted to say something, which is some of the, kind of a negative impact of AI, ML to the world. It came in the news, right? And to also see overall, where I'm coming from is, when we are trying to address a problem, for example, in India, when the population exploded, right, we went into, aggressively increasing the yield of the food products, etc. Right? In that process, we actually forgotten that food needs to be organic. Food needs to have certain basic things, right? Otherwise, food doesn't remain as a food. It becomes a kind of a toxic for the body, right? So I just want to understand, when we do the disruption, innovation, and things like that, should the thought leaders, should the people who are behind that, how much they should care about the consequences? Thanks.
Very, very, very great question. So I would say that ethics in business is in itself is a whole subject as well, and especially it doesn't matter whether we are talking about technology or AI ethics or thing. It's the responsibility of a business leader to protect the humanity is I would say raised above anything else. That's my take. And also see, if you see that while we have as a business practices, everybody encourages things about ESG, talks about environmental sustainability and other aspects of it. We also need to be mindful of the fact that while we are thinking about growing the business or leveraging technology to disrupt something, what is the line to be drawn? Now, some of the areas, typically some of the traditional business are more regulated, so they know that what are the lines are to be drawn. But whereas when it comes to these latest technologies, as of today, still the debates are going on. There is always two stands of being taken. There is one school of thought which comes and say that every technology disrupts, and then there is a new kind of job or a new kind of living, new kind of, as such we evolve. This is one school of thought. The second school of thought is the basic values, the basic way and living condition need to be protected while we are developing these, leveraging these innovations and disruptions. And both, I would say that both could be right from their perspective. But personally, I do believe that the business practices should not harm humanity. That's my thing. Where to draw the line is as of today, it exists because especially in the exponential technology space like AI and robotics, it's left to the individual innovators or individual business leaders. But soon there could be some legislations or regulations can come in at different places. But irrespective of that, one individually need to be more responsible when they approach these kind of challenges. That's my viewpoint on this aspect.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Naresh here. So I run a SME company. And one of the things is that since we work with a technology segment, like we work with refineries and we also work with automobile sector, in our company, the engineers get a huge amount of learning. That becomes a challenge by itself because within 2 to 3 years, they become so good at their job that large size companies are able to snap them up.
Right. Yeah. So, it's a see the challenge on the small medium enterprises is that, as I said, the growth opportunities are limited because SMEs tend to stay I mean, I use this, they start small and then stay small. And when a person gains knowledge, when they become a stagnant, there is no opportunity for them to grow. This is again on an interesting topic, which is close to me, is that I strongly believe that SMEs today doesn't have option but to scale up. To what extent they can scale up, or to what extent they can think about growing, because unless one start to grow, naturally there is no opportunity exists to retain the employees, because you will be doing the same work and same amount of earning the same amount of revenue, which also limits the ability for your internal talent to grow further. They look for either new opportunity, new learning, or increase in their status, and both social and financial as well. When these doesn't happen, and also there is a fear of job security and other things happen. So this is a whole lot of topics. So I believe strongly that SMEs should have to break from starting small and staying small to scaling up. Unless the scaling up can come from, then there is a question comes in, is that one, if it is purely a human or manpower driven one, there is always a scaling up in terms of expanding business and the newer one. Or if there is a pattern that is recognized that this pattern can be reused, can you kind of leverage technologies to automate certain part of it, so that your knowledge or your experience and expertise are protected. That's something which you can explore. Maybe we can, I think I just saw that you have shared your number. Maybe we can have a detailed discussion to have this conversation as well, Mr. Naresh.
Yeah, thanks. How do I get in touch with you?
I'm going to
the number, Naresh. Naresh, I will share the details. Don't worry.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. It was really illuminating.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Naresh. Any further questions? Anybody else has a question? You may please unmute and ask your questions, please. Srinivaslu?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please go on if you have any question.
Sir, Lakshmi sir, good thought and good presentation. Actually, we are into energy saving. Okay, we are into energy saving, and we are having a concept of retrofitting. For example, ceiling fans. We are retrofitting ceiling fans with BLDC motor, and we are saving energy to our end users. My concern is one thing is the person who are interested in investing and saving, they are ready. But for these kind of ideas, for example, not only for ceiling fan, I have solutions for almanac fans. I have solutions for washing machines. I have solutions for outdoor of air conditioners. Like that, any motors, for example, up to 3 kilowatt to 5 kilowatt, any motors, we make it to 50 to 60%. Okay, these are all concept, and we have to prove ourselves. We are proved in lot of organizations, lot of schools, even colleges, but people are not coming in front. So either we have any policy, or we have any cluster can be formed within MSMEs, so that we can fund them. MSME can fund them, and we will be having a responsibility to take over the repayment, like that. So please advise, sir.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. And so I would say that there is two kind of challenges that I see. One, how do you reach to your end customer? Basically, how do you reach to your end customer as well? How your ideas can be sponsored. Like, for example, I mean, just to, if everybody can speak Tamil, I'll just switch it over to Tamil in terms of just for the thing. So, I hope I can speak in Tamil, Mr. Gopi. Is it fine?
Go on.
So, main customer reach பண்றது. Second ecosystem access. உங்களுக்கு அந்த ideas இருக்குண்டு. There is an organization in Telangana called T-Works. T-Works is basically they basically help leaders exactly like you who have ideas, but there is no way for them to make it bigger, or rather find an idea to a product or a product to a market. அந்த மாதிரியான industries, T-Works basically incubates them and get that idea, sees the day of the light, and then you can go to the rest of it. So interest irundichana, maybe I can connect the right people with you, and they can do the help. It's an Indian, it's a pan-India organization, but based out of Telangana, and it is it's a very popular one, mainly focused on hardwares. Actually, neenga sondra kind of ideas and other things can be experimented, actually speaking.
Please connect, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. You share your contacts, I will contact you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Rajendra?
Hello,
Yeah, please
sir.
go on, Rajendra. Yeah.
Hi.
Morning. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, the session has been good. I don't have any questions as such, but pretty good approach and overall presentation. I loved that. Thank you.
I think we are done, Lakshmi. Thank you. Thank you very much for the time.
My pleasure. So
excellent. Yeah.
So, Lakshmi, one last question. This T-Works, is it part of Telangana government's initiative?
No, it's a part of Telangana government, but they're open for all Indian organization to come part of it as well. That's my understanding.
Okay.
I would like to thank Nitin Mishra for the connect. Thanks, Nitin. Thanks for putting us on to Lakshmi. We had a wonderful session today.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Just thoughts would be, I would say in just summary that there are a lot of awareness is a challenge at the level of MSME. There is one end of the people where a lot of industry owners are stuck in the day-to-day challenges. But on the other end of the challenge, on the spectrum, we have a lot of experts and skills and knowledge available, which is there is no way to connect them. And I would love to have all the people who have participated in this event to just have a look at our platform. And if you are an expert, or if you can offer your knowledge and skills to some of the MSMEs, we would request you to register. Or if you are an MSME and looking for some opportunities or some problems to be solved, also you can register as a customer. That's my parting thought. And again, thanks a lot for this opportunity.